Welcome to the Kelly Sullivan Walden Show, where we explore nighttime dreams, daytime desires, and the best ways to transform the tragic into magic. Because let's face it, we all dream, we all have our blessings, and we all have our challenges, myself included. And I don't want any of us to take any of those things lying down, if you know what I mean. I just wrote a book entitled A Crisis is a Terrible Thing to Waste. I'm excited to explore the topic with you, whether it relates to your waking or sleeping dreams, because we're dreaming all the time, people. So let's make it the best dream possible. I'm so glad you're here. Welcome. I feel like I need to get centered for a moment. Let's just do that. So, I just want to take a moment to get grounded here because we're going to be talking about things that are far, far out of this particular galaxy. So let's just breathe and let ourselves be right here, right now, in this precious present moment. And how sweet it is to be here with Brit Elders. Oh my goodness. And all the vast wisdom of her many lifetimes of experience, and in particular this lifetime of experience with this Billy Myers case and this amazing book that we will be talking about today, and all that it opens us up to. And I feel I already feel a shift, and I know everyone watching and listening is going to feel it. And I just say thank you so much. Thy will be done for the highest good of all now. And so it is. Amen. A woman, dreams, Brit.
Oh, thank you. That was
Oh.
beautiful. Very centering.
Okay. Yay. All right. So let me tell everyone what's going on today. Welcome to the show. We're going to be talking about an amazing woman and an amazing book and an amazing story. The book is called UFO Contacts from the Pleiades, volumes 1 and 2. For the first time, 45 years after the original publication, the two photojournal volumes of UFO Contact from the Pleiades are combined into one book for a modern audience, with a new foreword from Shirley MacLaine, a prologue written by Mexican UFOologist Jaime Maussan, and a new introduction and preface by Brit Elders. So this photojournalist presents the unique contact case, and I'm covered in chills as I'm saying this, of a Swiss farmer named Billy Meyer, who claims to have met with Pleiadians hundreds of times, compiling many layers of evidence, including notes on their conversations, hundreds of photographs, movie footage, audio recordings of the craft, landing tracks of the spaceships, dozens of witnesses, and even metal samples of the craft itself. The quality and amount of evidence was convincing, making this unlike any previously seen case. So, this is Brit Elders. She's an investigative author and documentary filmmaker who traveled the world exploring a variety of topics, including the mysterious world of UFOs. She's participated in several in-depth investigations, including the Billy Meyer case and the waves of UFO sightings in Mexico, which began in 1991 and continue to this day. She's the CEO of ShirleyMacLaine.com, and she continues to research and write for herself and others. And I know she's a dear and personal friend of a very dear and personal friend and agent of mine, Deborah Jacobs. So anyway, welcome to the show today, Britt.
Thank you so much. This has been a long time coming. I'm glad we finally, we've been telephone and email, but this is good.
Yes, it's about time to have contact with a
Yes.
fellow earthling. So, in reading your book, I just want to share this kind of personal experience. I feel elevated. I feel like this isn't just an intellectual book about it's very factual, very fact-based, and it's very journalistic. But for everybody who is picking, when you pick up a book or you watch a podcast or listen to a podcast, what I think you're really wanting, if you're like me, is to be moved and
Mhm.
to have your assemblage point, as Carlos Castaneda would have said, shifted in a higher place. And this conversation that this book kind of opened up for me within myself was like it felt like an enlightened place of not just 2.0 or 3.0, but like 5000.0.
No,
And it's
great.
kind of like to align with the mentality or the consciousness of the Pleiadians, which is they're similar enough to us, as you say, but about 30,000 how
3,000
far
years
advanced
advanced,
would
3,000 years. And
right.
they've developed a balance. And I think that's what people are really feeling into because they have a balance between their physical and their technology and their spiritual side as well. And so there's a harmony there that we're working towards, but we haven't achieved yet.
In the past, when I've talked to people that really study the whales and dolphins, I've heard that if we just studied them, and we might become a little bit more like them, and then we would naturally evolve. And I thought, well, then it's the same with the Pleiadians.
Yeah.
Like by just thinking, like if we want an enlightenment tool, yes, we can meditate, yes, we can do yoga, yes, we can, explore our dreams, which is what I advocate. But
Right.
I think if we really want to accelerate this, we would just like be in the conversation of how do they be and what do they say. So did you experience this? Is that part of
Yeah.
what the intrigue
That's a
was for
big
you?
part of it actually, because the book itself is not just the thump on it evidence, which there is a tremendous amount of. It's about what the Palladians told Billy and the
Yeah,
messages that he gave basically to the world via them. And the primary being we're not the only thinking beings in the universe. That's a huge step for a lot of people, but
right.
it's a step we have to master, especially moving forward as we are looking at the frontiers of space being our future home. And I mean, we're
Right.
moving to Mars, we're planning all these things, we want to go further and further into the universe. We have to realize we can't take our garbage with us as we go out there. We need to be better balanced, better understanding of each other, and in turn take that out there where we can then be okay with them being who they are and not go in with any fear or any anxiety of what we're going to find out there. It's a really big deal when you think of it in terms of where we are today and
Yes.
what we're planning for the future. We really want to take our place in the universe. We can't do it yet because we haven't achieved that harmony. We lean heavy into the technological. We
Hmm.
leave our physical world is all we think we exist in, and we're not touching our inner selves at all. We're not doing the inner work we need to do to harmonize with those other two.
I think sometimes just knowing that the fact that they're similar to us, but like you said, 3,000 years, like if we were meditating for 3,000 years, or if we were really, like, I'm thinking of like Buddhist monks that I know that spend all their time
Right.
meditating and being of service. So it's kind of like them 3,000 years from now, or is it like the worst of us 3,000 years from now, or somewhere in between, like a
I think
synthesis?
it's the in between part, 3,000 years advanced. Because you don't want to take one or the other. You
Uh-huh.
want the totality of everything you're involved with. They're physical beings like we are. They have needs like we do. So you have to work within those realms of what your existence is. If you're in a three-dimensional thumb on a plane, you have to have certain things.
Right.
But you also have to grow with the spirit, connect to creation,
Hmm.
understand that that is a part of everything in the universe. It's not that we need to suppress one or the other. It's we really desperately need that balance. And we need to stop the conflict, stop the, not just conflict in the world, which there's ample of, but conflict within ourselves as
Mm.
to what's right
Right.
and what's wrong. We know that. We don't need to be told that. We don't need a following society because we already have the knowledge. We
Mm.
just have to tap into it and pull it forward. The Pleiadian messages really help bring that out.
Right. Well, it's kind of like when you're lost in the dark, follow the North Star, and like, oh, there's a guidance system, and oh, there's seven of them.
Yeah.
So, one of the things I love about you and your voice and the way you wrap this book around is you're very grounded, and you are very accessible, and especially the fact that you didn't start your journey as a believer, you started
Yeah.
it as a journalist. So take us back a little bit to who you were before you met Billy Meyer, and you and your husband,
Mhm.
and bring us back to
Well,
that version of you.
okay. Billy's first contacts with the Pleiadians began in 1975. We heard about the case in 1976 through a friend of ours, the lieutenant colonel with the U.S. Air Force. He was retired, had been fascinated for years with UFOs all around the world, and that was based on his military experience and things he had seen there. Lee and I, my husband and I, had a company called Intercept. It was an electronic countermeasure company designed to keep people from being bugged and wiretapped and eavesdropped on.
Wow.
And our clients basically were Fortune 500s and financial institutions all over the world. We didn't want to throw a reputation we'd worked very hard to get into a UFO case, which back in the 70s was not a topic that people discussed openly.
Hmm.
So we passed on it when Wendell Stevens brought it to us. And we said, no, no, we're not going to touch this. And when he showed us the photographs, our first reaction was, these are too good to be true. You can't
Hmm.
possibly think that this is real.
Hmm.
Well, he went to Switzerland. He came back and he sat us down. He says, you have got to see what I saw. So we had some work over in London to take care of. We decided, we'll take a side trip into Switzerland, just see what's there. We went in expecting to spend one day, figure out how he was doing it, and come home. We were there 5 days. And Billy presented photographs, movie footage, sounds of the craft, audio recordings of the craft. And then on top of that, the very last day, he gave us metal samples. So we thought, okay, this is something we can dig our investigative teeth into. And we jumped in with both feet and started a 7 year investigation into the physical evidence. Because when the great
Hmm.
thing about this case, you have the physical evidence, the thump on it stuff, but you also have all of these wonderful words coming from the Pleiadians.
Yes. Ah.
So you kind of go, okay, I'm going to look at this and I'm going to look at this, and your brain kind of goes in two different directions. But it fulfills the need of the right brain and the left brain, the thumb on it
Yes.
and the creative. So we started this investigation. Every time we thought we had an answer, 50 more questions would pop up, and we'd be off in a new direction testing something else. The messages from the Pleiadians are they are Billy's truth. He's the one that had the conversations. It's a gift to us, really, that he's imparted those and
Hmm.
shared those with us. But when you have thump on it evidence, it's real or it isn't. and all of it tested where no one else could duplicate it. We didn't go back in time a second. We didn't have telephones that took incredible photographs. We didn't have telephones that could take video.
We
We
didn't
didn't
have
have
Photoshop.
Photoshop. Yeah, we didn't
Right.
have personal computers.
Right.
And Meyer had none of that. So that just set aside the physical evidence. And then you get into the words. And they're so logical and they're so simplistic in the
Hmm.
view of connecting self to creation. It's a big part of it. So many don't understand that all of us, when the Lakota say we are all related, they mean it. We are
Right.
all interconnected to creation. And it's very important we realize that.
I love the quotes that you have throughout, and I had this thought that if we took off, and how do you pronounce the name? Is it Semyasi?
Simyasa.
Semyasa.
Mm-hmm.
And we put the Dalai Lama next, like as attributed to him, it would be like, oh, of course, this
I
is
get it.
such,
Yeah.
yes, exactly. And
Mm-hmm.
I just think there's an interesting, it's kind of like how Moses was chosen to be the one to free the Jews, and he had a stutter, and he, was not a public presenter. He's like, but I can't be the one, and yet,
Right.
like exactly, you're the one. And Billy Meyer, one-armed, humble farmer
Yeah.
who ends up losing his place. I mean, he ends up, this doesn't help him,
Not
like
at all.
him, if he was making this up. I mean, he lost his home, he lost his employment, he lost many friends and his place in society, and in fact got robbed and teased and taunted, and like he lost everything.
It
So
was sad.
why would the only reason a person would make up something is to be cool and to get more cachet, and he lost all cachet.
Mm.
And plus the one-armed aspect, I think, is like Moses's stutter. It's kind
Yeah.
of an additional, like, wow, how could he possibly rig things up like this?
Right.
It's
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, when you're looking at the photographs, especially, and we had Billy demonstrate for us, and we've got a new documentary coming out, and you'll see that in the documentary
Oh, I can't
of
wait to see
same
it.
name, UFO Contact from the Pleiades, the documentary film. It was filmed in 1982. It is got a lot more information that couldn't go into the book. It's a fascinating thing, but you can see Billy put his camera on a tripod with one arm. And that's the movie camera. And he would take movie footage, 8 millimeter movie footage, as he's taking still photographs with this 35 millimeter camera that he could operate with one hand. I mean, it's fascinating.
They picked the right guy.
Yeah,
And the wisdom that comes through is different than his own. I mean, he's like you say, he's a very simple spoken farmer, and he
it's
doesn't
earthy.
this is not wisdom that would be his own. Did you find his personality to be very different than what came through from Sannyasa?
Oh, most definitely. Um, Billy, boy, to describe him when we first met him, he was washing his face in a horse trough. They didn't have indoor plumbing in the house. Um,
Wow.
very simple, very humble, curious, wanted to converse, wanted to share, didn't avoid anything. He's worldly. He had traveled through the Middle East and through Europe, but he's not educated as we think of, collegiate type education. So he's a very unique individual. He's smart when it comes to how to take care of things and get things done, especially around the farm. And we saw his world literally turned upside down because so many people, when the case broke in Switzerland, they came from all over Europe and they would come in and demand time and demand their questions be answered. It, there wasn't a situation of any kind of give and take. It was, okay, Billy, give, give, give. And it got to him after a while. Some of the times he'd say, I just want to break the contacts. I don't want any more of this.
Right.
Yeah, because it was really rough. He has had assassination attempts.
Mm.
He has had many of those. We were there one time when his daughter was, there was an attempted abduction by two men in a van. And
Oh,
yeah, I mean, so he has not gained anything from this. And if anything, I think it's sort of pulled him back a little bit from the world. But I talked to Billy. We had a great Zoom call the other day. He's still Billy that I met way back in 1977. He's just this
wow.
wonderful guy with this sort of inner radiance that comes through when you talk to him, caring, open to any question that you throw at him. He's great. He's really wonderful about that.
It seemed like the reason that they picked him was there was a pureness about him, and there was
Yeah.
an like you because he would, in order to receive the communication, he would have to be on a wavelength
Hmm.
somewhat similar to them, or at least, I mean, they would have to find each other in order for him to receive the communication. So he couldn't be just anybody. He had to be somebody that was open to that.
Well, they recognized him from a past life.
Mm,
So they said your incarnations, those patterns match our patterns. And so they were quite comfortable with him, but they studied him for 10 years before
wow.
they initiated this conversation. And just to make certain that they weren't, going to choose someone who would not be willing to work with them and to really help bring a message to our planet and with evidence that we have to really realize we're not the only thinking beings out there.
So this is where my brain goes. I mean, this is scrambly. It's scrambly because there's like so many versions of Kelly right now.
Yeah.
There's like the me that's like, of course, none of this should be a shock. This
Okay.
all makes so much sense. What's the big deal? Why is it even a thing? And then there's this other part of me. I remember the very first time I ever heard of Pleiadians, it was like in the early 90s,
Uh-huh.
and I was reading Dawn of the Pleiadians, or I don't know. It was some book
Mhm.
that talked about him, and I remember I had a mini panic attack while I was reading it because I felt so unstable in
Mm.
everything that I was oriented in.
Mhm.
And I remember I turned on, I put in my Madonna CD and I was like, I just need to listen to Madonna. I just needed to do something to like drop me back down. Holiday. Just to like, whoa, because it hurt my brain. It hurt, like it was painful, even though it
Mhm.
was beautiful. It was too much. It was
Yeah.
like being given too many gifts on Christmas that you're
Yeah.
buried in them and you can't unwrap them and you can't even breathe because there's so many. That's how it felt. So this has not been my path because it was almost like too much. And then I accidentally, by an accident, found myself on my very first and only road trip all by myself on, it was around the 4th of July. And a friend said, "Oh, come stay at my place in come stay with us in Roswell, New Mexico." And I was like, "Where's Roswell? What's that?" It turns out I was there on the 50th anniversary of the crash when there was this
Oh.
convention, and I was like, "What?" And I went in there feeling like, one of the people that had their arms crossed and kind of, "What the hell? Come on, people." And
Uh-huh.
I walked out of that completely blown, and having heard government officials and seen video footage of Jimmy Carter and was who were the other, Harry S. Truman? There were
Oh,
other,
there have been so many. Ronald Reagan. Yeah. I
yeah,
mean, there's many, many presidents that have had comments on this.
yes, and very very credible people that are not considered woo-woo at all, that
Right.
had had personal contact or were one step removed, and it was just a like, this is real.
Hmm.
And so what is it that makes this so hard that would make people abduct Billy's daughter, that would have assassination attempts, or that make people just go completely kaplooey. Most people are not calm and cool and collected like you
No,
in the
thank
midst of
you.
this.
I get very happy about things. So yeah. Um, no, there's something here with the fact that we have not looked out to the universe and thought what else is out there often enough.
Right.
We are so locked into, and especially today, our technology, our faces in our phone, we're doing all of the technological stuff and none of the wonderment. So we're
Right.
not really in a position to say, oh, maybe, gosh, really, there might be another civilization out there besides ourselves. I know a lot of people feel it ties into religion.
Oh, yeah.
I have never had that experience personally where there's a conflict because I believe in creation and I believe the creator created everything. And it's
Mm,
male, female, it's all the energies wrapped up together. So I never had that conflict, but I know a lot of people do. Um, the way we have been indoctrinated on this planet to think that we are somehow superior because we are living on a planet. We are alive in a three-dimensional thump on it world. And you know what? There might be others, but we never go to that thought process. And that makes such a difference. When you just sit outside at night and look at the stars and wonder how many others are out there.
right.
And how would it be if we sat down and communicated with them? If we had this great dialogue where we could learn from each other? Because even the Pleiadians say they're evolving too, constantly,
Right.
just like we are.
This is one of the quotes from right at the beginning of the book. It
Mm.
says, "We too are still far removed from perfection
Right,
and have to evolve constantly, just like yourselves. We are neither superior nor superhuman, nor are we missionaries. We
right,
feel duty bound to the citizens of Earth because our forefathers were your forefathers." And that was Semyasa, and referring to herself as a
hmm,
cosmonaut, and that was from February 8th, 1975.
hmm.
That's just that blows my mind that there's that connection. Okay, so maybe if we open up to the Pleiadians,
Hmm.
and that feels like just pure goodness, pure beauty, pure love, pure evolvement, pure us becoming better than ourselves. But I think that it also opens us up to those other beings that are out there. And not that we're not already open. It's like we're
Right,
already, vulnerable as all get out, as my grandparents like we're exposed here. So but it does feel like if we acknowledge it, like if you don't look at it, then it's not real.
right,
And that means that there might be other beings out there that aren't so friendly, aren't so kind, aren't so sympathetic, aren't so helpful and loving. So what do you know, or where do you put that? How do you
I
deal with
look
that?
at it this way. On this planet, we have those type of beings.
Mm-hmm.
We're not all good. We're good by nature, but we've taught ourselves to not be good.
I love
There
that.
have to be
Yeah.
those out there too. And that's okay. You have to be discerning. On an individual basis, you have to know in your heart, this is not a brain thing, this is a heart thing. You've got to feel what is and what isn't. Because I can't tell anybody how to believe, how to think, or whether or not to even trust that we are not alone in the universe. That's up to everybody on an individual basis. But they've really got to tap into themselves and sometimes do a little extra work. And that's when you know that you attract wonderful people. You don't attract the people that are going to harm you. And I think it would be true
That's
for
true.
everything happening out there as well.
psychically, there's a lot of things that are like frightening.
Mm-hmm.
But he said the way that we could navigate through all of that is he said if we really wanted to be safe, just become enlightened, then we'll be fine because the funky things can't stick to us. It might try.
That's right. That's right. I
So just become
absolutely agree
enlightened.
with him.
So this book, your book, goes right hand in hand with all of this because I think one way, if we're looking for like a shortcut to enlightenment,
Right.
UFO Contact from the Pleiades, volumes 1 and 2, reading that before bedtime, before going into dream time, I
Mm-hmm.
think would be a kind of a brilliant way to expedite the process because we have that on our mind and we're susceptible at those moments bookending our sleep to normalize this high voltage way of thinking. And maybe that's a way to open ourselves to the good aspects and not open ourselves to the funky.
That's really good. That's a very good idea because um, in anything you get involved with, you can become overwhelmed. It's
Yes.
just, it's easy to do. But if you will go through the book, and this is why we tried to balance it, so you have the physical aspects of it and you have this other beautiful side to it as well. And then find the things that feel right to you. We're all developing at our own pace. We're all moving through life at our own speeds. We look at things differently and we grow at different rates. So it's important you find what you're attracted to, let it in, let it really soak in, and then digest it. And then go a little further and maybe a little further. And it just brings up so much within yourself, and you're giving yourself an education in ways like you talk about through dreams that many people don't even realize how valuable those are and how you can move into your own personal space
Yeah.
through dreams. So that's a beautiful idea of just read a little before you go to bed.
Right. So we can evolve incrementally so we don't completely
Mm-hmm.
blow our circuits. Because my,
Exactly.
my best friend and I were just talking the other day about how, like, if we're going to just get so simple about what are we doing here? Who are we and what are we doing here? And how do we do the best job we can? It's kind of like, well, let's just incrementally see if we can behold more light so that if we
Mm-hmm.
were to meet God today, we don't completely explode and
Right.
pixelate.
Right.
We would be able to hold ourselves and say, "Hey, what's up, God? What up, G?" Like, so that if we were to meet sannyasi,
Mm-hmm.
we would be able to be in a relative state of coherence. But
Mm-hmm.
if we're in, like, I think that at the very least, what not to do is to don't live inside your fear, don't live in your anger, don't plot against the people who hurt you. So, okay, so if some, I mean, if we could channel some yes, or based on what you know about like the politics today and the
Yeah.
difficulties today, is there, um, I mean, you just talked to Billy recently, so if we were gonna, practice the teachings of what's in this book, even though you wouldn't necessarily call it teachings, although it
Right.
is, it's kind of just
Right.
it's evidence. How for people who are very fragmented today and very angry and feeling so helpless and
Mm-hmm.
furious about being helpless, what would be the message for these people?
Two things I would say, one coming from me, from all of my
Yeah,
studies into this, and one coming from Billy. The one from me is find your own heart and love it. Love yourself. Make that your ground. Be
that's
comfortable
great.
in your skin. You know who you are, and you'll be okay. From Billy, I asked him the other day, what are you doing with these people that are still attacking you? How do you deal with that? Because quite frankly, coming out, doing what you do, doing what I do, people will attack you.
Yeah,
All right, that's part of it. Billy had
right.
the best answer, though. He says, I just focus and send them love. I
Oh,
do not take it personally. I just send them love. Now, we don't think of that as being a retribution type of a reaction to someone that's attacking you, but it's a beautiful retribution. It gives a
Oh,
whole new twist to that word. It brings about the thought of, okay, so if I'm not returning that hate, if I am conquering it really with love, I'm winning the battle.
absolutely. Oh gosh, there's a Byron Katie quote: when they attack you and you realize you're loving them with your whole heart, your work is done.
Yeah.
I love that. So let's just scale back for a second, all the way to what are, we should have done this at the beginning. I should have done this in the beginning, but for people who are like, what's a Pleiadian and what are the Pleiades? So, I'm taking for granted that people know, or at least they've heard, and some haven't, some haven't. So a little bit of orientation around what are the Pleiadians? What is it?
Okay, the Pleiades is a star system that's about 4,500 light years from Earth. It consists of seven stars, and throughout history, it has been recognized as the seven sisters, the seven stars, the seven angels, all different names. They appear at midnight, November 17th, directly overhead. And they're this little tiny sparkly grouping of stars that Betelgeuse chases across the sky. So Orion's belt is right behind it. So that's an easy way to find it. The Pleiadians, their original planet was Lyra. And they had factions much like we do now, where it's I'm right, and it's a battle over who thinks they're right. They ended up blowing up their planet with something similar to a nuclear war. They had something we do not have, and that was the ability to go into space, find a planet they could engineer
Mm.
to live on, and create this new home. We don't have that ability to go into space and engineer a new planet. So we need to be more aware of where we are. We cannot destroy this planet through our wars and our anger and things like that. We have to learn how to communicate, basically. And that's very fundamental to anything. But once they got there, then they thrived and they started exploring other places in the universe. They do believe that they helped seed this planet. In other words, our forefathers were your forefathers, the quote from Samyasa.
I love that.
They were all here eons ago, seeding this planet with life, as were others, not just the Pleiadians. So that in itself just sort of gives them a link. They sort of look at us as their little brothers and sisters. They want to watch what we're doing. They don't want to interfere. They say we have to grow at our own path. When we create a problem, we have to learn how to correct it. It's our responsibility to be resourceful enough to overcome that problem we created. So that's one of the things that's very, very key to them. And they say they will only get involved if we come to a brink where what we do affects other things in the cosmos. So if we were to create a massive nuclear war, which would destroy this planet, it would have a ripple effect through the universe. They don't want that. At that point, they might interfere. But for everything else, it's a small scale problem to them, and we have to learn how to deal with it. Yeah.
That's wonderful and intense.
At the
I
same time,
know
yes.
one of the questions that Billy asked was, why don't you appear to everybody? Why, like, wouldn't that just be more efficient?
Yeah, no.
I don't know that he said it like that. But why would you? I mean, I know Sannyasa said that not everybody would get it, but why is there more to that answer in your
I
experience?
think that's what we were talking about earlier.
Hmm.
That that logic that we have that we think we're the only ones here,
Yeah.
that I mean, it would affect so many things. It would affect those individuals that don't want to take into consideration there may be off-world life. It would
Right.
affect things like the stock market. It would affect
Oh,
politics. I mean, there would just be so many aspects of life that we take for granted that would be turned upside down.
yeah, that makes sense. I remember after that that event I was at in Roswell,
Uh-huh.
I remember I went to see there was a Jodie Foster movie, Contact, I think it was.
Contact,
That
yes.
movie was out right then, um and I remember hearing some of the people at the conference talking about how one of the ways that we're sort of softening people to the idea that there is other life is through movies and through
Yeah,
video games and media and things so that it's not such a far off concept, so it becomes a
right.
little bit more normalized. Um,
That's happening right now, not just with movies, but our government is taking the beginning steps on releasing this information. When they release it's called the Tic Tac video. It was taken by Navy pilots of an object that they can't explain, traveling faster than we can, doing movements in the skies that we can't do. And that's just one of them. They've had hearings, congressional hearings on this. Of course, they go back to this is national security. This
mhm.
is something, we have to be wary of and all of that. To me, that sets up that attraction of the side you don't really want to talk to.
Right.
Instead, you need to be saying, what can we learn from this? Instead of saying, be afraid of it. It's a national security issue. They could come take us over. If they wanted to do that, they would have done it. Um, People just need to lose that fear
Hmm.
and let go of it easily. Don't fight it. I'm going to be brave, that kind of thing. Just
Right.
relax with it and learn from this. And you'll learn so much about yourself, each other, everything. It's not just, like I said, the Myers-Swiss Pleiadian case. It's so many things happening in the world right now. And people
Mm,
can garner so much information just from
right.
opening up to it and being curious.
Right. Well, I think your kind of the portal that you open to people via your book is a grounded, incredible way. I think there's
Um,
one of the reasons why people are cynical is I think there are a lot of people that do create hoaxes. I mean, you're a journalist, so you went there to, in some way, Billy Meyer was guilty before proven innocent in your mind. I guess he sort of had to be because
yes,
you had to go in with a certain skepticism,
right.
cynicism, and but there's so we need to be open-minded, but not to every single thing that's out there around this stuff because some people just want to feel important maybe and try to latch onto something that may not be so true.
That's right.
So, um,
That's really a very important point because it's not about your placement in life. It's not about any of that stuff. It's about what resonates with you as an individual. And it's like going through school. You start out with baby steps and you learn your ABCs and you just
yeah.
progress along.
Hmm.
And the more you do your education, do your research work, the
Yeah.
more comfortable you are with everything around you. It's the same with this book, but it was
Yeah.
designed and laid out so that you had the history of the Pleiades star system all around the world. You had the science, you had the evidence, you had the farmer and his story, his family, the witnesses, and then you had the quotes. So you have a little
Yeah.
of everything so you can tap into what you need at that particular moment.
It's you cover the whole spectrum in this book. So I met a woman once that said that she was a Pleiadian, and
Mhm.
she and so are there walk-ins? Are there people that do? I mean, are there you? I mean, are there people that are on this planet that carry that energy that are walking among us?
I would think so because of the reincarnation patterns. They would
Okay.
carry the energy.
Okay.
Um, Maybe they've tapped into a past life. on the Pleiades or some other system, and that's wonderful. The Pleiadians say that they do, and they can be with us for a little while on the planet, walking among us, but, and this is an important thing, we have what they call auric stench.
Oh, yes.
And that's
Auric
all of this
stench.
negative
All of
vibrational
us?
crap.
All of
Yeah,
us? Oh,
everyone does.
sorry.
We're all raising it slowly, but we're
Oh,
raising it and we're trying to learn. And some are worse than others. But that's they can't afford to be around us for a long period of time. To quote Billy, he says they turn around in their head. The Pleiadians do when they're around us for any period of time. So it's something that you know, I would love to sit down and have a conversation with them, but I would not want to interfere with their frequency vibrations with my auric stench. Yeah.
like, sorry,
Yeah, exactly.
don't mean to have an auric stench.
Right.
Uh, okay, so do you, I mean, with all the time that you've spent, so now it's been since the 70s, so it's
Yeah.
been a
Long time.
lifetime, a very
Mhm.
long time. Do you feel like you are, I mean, none of us are from Earth. We're
Right.
all like, none of us are truly from here. I mean, we were
Right.
born here, but we're not of this earth.
Right.
So, where do you think you're from? Do you think you might be a descendant? I mean, do you think this might be why you were
Hmm.
picked?
That's a really good question. I don't know, but I feel very connected to the Pleiades and very connected to Arcturus. Those are the two star clusters that really I feel comfortable with. I know others that feel connected to Sirius, the
Hmm.
star system Sirius, and even some that feel very connected to Betelgeuse and to or the Orion constellation and all of that. So I think all of us have this sort of not a genetic memory, maybe, but a spiritual memory of past lives on other places.
So, and I just want to bring in dreams for a little touch here.
Sure.
Have, I mean, I'll just say this, one of the things that I say when people come to me with dreams of extraterrestrials or UFOs, one of the things I typically say is what's most alien to us is our own beauty, our own power. So, as a metaphor, as an
Mhm.
like I believe everything that we dream about is a part of ourselves.
Uh-huh.
So we couldn't even bring it into our field, even in a dream, if it wasn't in some way, shape, or form a part of ourselves.
Right.
So how do you feel about that if you were going to, look
I
at it from a dream perspective?
I love it. Before we went to Switzerland the first time, I had a series of 7 dreams over a
What?
period of 7 nights. They were snippets. There was nothing, it wasn't this massive scale dream and all that. I saw the farm. I saw the apple trees at the farm. I saw the rabbits at the farm. I saw the dog. Billy had this beautiful, beautiful Doberman named Hannibal. And I saw
Hannibal.
him. I saw the layout of how you drive down the hill. I knew it all before we got there. And it came, and I wrote it all down. Okay, I dreamt this. What is this? Because I didn't know what his house looked like, but I'm seeing this place that has a really steep pitched roof, and it has trees over here on the hill, and there's kind of a weird little patio, and I'm seeing all of this. And so I keep a dream journal, and I wrote it all down. And when I got there, I went, wow, okay, so I needed to know this and be comfortable with it before I got here. So dreams are really important, and when you're dreaming especially of extraterrestrial life, just try to listen to what they're saying because you're learning about yourself in the process. That's you
Mm.
communicating with you from another realm.
Ooh.
And I really think there's a lot of people out there that are doing this and don't even recognize they're doing it. So sometimes it's a way to sort of wake up and pay closer attention to the real you, the core you, rather than all the superficial things that we put around us.
Wow, that was very beautiful. One of the things I wish I had the quote exactly in front of me, that sannyasa shares is about work and how they all work, but they don't get paid for what they do. So
Yeah,
money isn't an aspect of life
right.
over there. So can you talk about kind of the way of life according to
Well,
sannyasa?
first of all, in their work, the work sort of selects them. It's what you're geared to do naturally. So you're not forced to, okay, go be an accountant or go be a doctor or an attorney with what's happening in the back of your mind. Oh, those are professions that I'm going to make a lot of money in. They don't need to do that. They're telepathic, so you have all of this inner communication happening. That takes care of a lot of the crime issues and a lot of the competitiveness and the keeping up with the Joneses stuff and all of that. It becomes a situation where they don't utilize money, they do barter, they have physical needs just like we do. But if I'm a traveler through space and there's someone else that is tending the land on Era, their home planet, I swap off what I need with someone else. So it's a more balanced way because we
Wow.
haven't learned to spiritualize, and I hate to use that word, but it's the only one I can think of, to spiritualize money. Money is not a bad thing if it is balanced, if it is
It's
used
balanced.
properly, and if it helps. It's a form of barter. Their barter is different than ours. But we have to learn that the money we create is not what makes us the people we are. And we haven't done that yet.
But this is a North Star. We can aspire to be more like that. I mean, we could say it's, you know, they're kind of socialist in a way. I mean, they're people are taken care of. They're they're
They
they're
are,
not they
they
don't
are,
have
but they know how to take care of each other.
right. And so they're not just right, exactly. That feels like a world I want to live in.
You can't
That's
have one big group saying, okay, we are taking care of you, the
right.
population, this way.
Correct.
It's
Right.
taking care of each other.
Of
And
each
there's the
other.
difference. Yeah.
Oh, I think you need to talk to Bernie Sanders. He needs to get a copy of this. I think
No,
whoever's
he's
going to
a
be
love.
president next. What's that?
Yeah, right.
Wouldn't that be? It's like, wait, it's not just about everybody taking care. Right. It's both.
That
It's the
would,
both.
yeah, that would really do something to fracture that concept. It's taking care of each other.
And that's empowering. It's not handouts, it's hand
That's
ups. And
right.
that it's like mutually empowering. This just feels like it resonates so deeply in me.
Uh-huh.
I think everybody needs to get this book if just for many. I mean, it's intellectually like thought provoking and stimulating, but it's also just so nurturing for the soul. I literally feel like there's been a roto-rooter through my heart and soul
Oh,
in
that's
getting
great.
the privilege of reading this book that just
Oh,
came out.
thank
So
you.
I I want to just also just give a little plug for okay, so let's plug the book, of course. The book is called UFO Contact from the Pleiades, volumes 1 and 2. I
Mhm.
can't recommend this book enough. So y'all get a copy, get a bunch of copies, tell people about this book. I feel like it's a very gentle way to elevate gently as we go up, as opposed to it having to be painful and difficult
No
and the way it
struggle.
and yeah, where you have to go play Madonna afterwards. I mean,
I love
why Madonna? That is so funny. I
it.
mean, I love her, but God bless. You also are the CEO of
Right,
ShirleyMacLaine.com. And I know that she wrote the foreword to the book and she went to meet Billy
right,
in the
right.
book. So that must have been amazing. How,
Oh, it's so
so
funny.
what
Yeah.
was that like?
Well, she called us. She got our number through a friend. She called us and said, I want to go to Switzerland and I want to meet Meyer. And my husband answered the phone. He was quite direct. And he says,
Who are you?
We just got back from Switzerland. I don't care who you are. We're not running tours. Then he hung up the phone. Yeah, she waited a couple hours and called back and said, "Look, I'm writing a book called Out on a Limb, and I think this man is
Oh,
one of the characters." And it ended up that she had three different contactees she'd spoken to, and she composited the character of David so that it was partially Billy and partially these other two people.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
Okay.
we took her over. She's a question machine. She's still a question machine. She's a very dear friend. And she just sat with her tape recorder shoved in Billy's face, asking question after question after question, and Billy answering patiently. He was so gracious with her. And they just hit it off. We had a great time over there then.
Oh, how wonderful. Oh my goodness. Okay, Britt, I feel like we're just getting warmed up, just getting started. It's the end, but it's the beginning. So this is not the last time. I hope that you'll do me the
Oh,
honor of
I
being
would
on
be
my show.
honored to be back with you. This is
And
great.
yeah, you are just such a beautiful, beautiful being inside and out. And I know you were just as Billy was chosen for this. I know you and Lee were also chosen to
Aw,
to do this
thank
work.
you.
And I know that Deborah was chosen to be in this constellation, as was Shirley, and now as was me. Yay, and everyone watching and or listening. Thank you so much for sharing this incredible work of heart and art. UFO Contact from the Pleiades, volumes 1 and 2. You put so much into this. This wasn't just a book that you rolled out of bed one day and scribbled and said, publish this. This
Right.
is a
No.
beyond words perfect publisher for
Yes.
this. So, congratulations, and thank you again so much for just being the bearer of wonderful gifts. And thank you, Billy Meyer. Thank you for your sacrifice and all that you've gone through for being able to be the conduit of such wonderful and worthy wisdom. We're all
Oh,
better for it.
thank
Thank you,
you,
Britt.
Kelly. This has
Thank you.
been just a beautiful time. I've loved it.
It's been dreamy for me. Okay, to be continued. And for everyone else, until we meet again, don't take your dreams or any talk of UFOs or Pleiadians lying down. Sweet dreams. Thank you for listening to the Kelly Sullivan Walden Show. If you enjoyed this episode, please take a moment to like, subscribe, comment, or share it with your friends. My show can be found on iTunes, YouTube, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. If you'd like to order my latest book and audiobook, A Crisis is a Terrible Thing to Waste, go to your favorite online or brick and mortar retailer, then head on over to kellysullivanwalden.com/tragic 2 magic and put in your order number and redeem your bonus gifts. I'm also excited to be offering a dream work practitioner training. So if that calls to you, go to kellysullivanwalden.com/dreamwork. If you'd like to join me for the live recordings of these shows, most Wednesdays at noon Pacific, you can find me live on TikTok, YouTube, or Facebook at either Kelly S. Walden or Kelly Sullivan Walden Dreams. If you want to learn the secret to allowing your nighttime dreams to manifest your daytime desires, check out my new Dreamifesting Live workshop. Or if you've always dreamed of being an author but you just can't seem to write that book, join me for the Authors Showcase and check out my new podcast with Joey Sutton, Anatomy of Friendship. Everything can be found on kellysullivanwalden.com. Until next time, don't take your dreams lying down, and may your wildest and most wonderful dreams all come true.